We were a little worried they're going to be like, that's all installation error, but we were pretty confident in photo 28. And you should have seen me tarping this thing in a 6-foot wide valley. It's or 6-foot wide alley. I could touch both buildings. We have a 40-foot ladder extended 28, 30 feet up, and I'm putting Typar paper over all this. It keeps moving off, and I just keep like touching the building behind me and pushing back forward. Finally, Paul, my social media guy, took a 2x4 he found on the ground, like jammed it between the rungs and like the wall behind me so it wouldn't pop loose. But it was a scary, scary endeavor. And if you look really low on that, do you see the knuckles for all the electrical inputs? $12,000 in electrical work, plus the city, like Duke Electricity had to come out and detach things. They had to power down the entire building for 8 hours. So the residents, like it was an expensive claim really, really quick. Yay. I want you to go to the next set of photos though, which starts on page 14, because these are better ones for y'all in the field to inspect. Photos number 21 and I think 20 are both from right here, well, no, they're in Charlotte, I think. Have you ever had an adjuster say, well, that's overdriven fasteners? I can discover that in my initial inspection. I keep a little 3-tab shingle in my pouch, just a little cutout piece of it. And these are photos number 2 and 3 on page 14. Photos 2 and 3 on page 14 of the wind damage file of this one right here. And if I find shingles on the roof that are pulled from the fastener, I take that little tab of 3-tab shingle and I try and slide it under the nail head. If it fits under the nail head, was it ever overdriven? No. If shingle fits under, it was never overdriven. Now, every now and then, it's got a whole bunch of shingle gunk around it, and that's pretty clear. It was holding the shingle just fine, and it ripped the shingle. So you can take a picture of that, and then if you really want, you can clean the gunk out and then test it to showcase that it did rip some of the shingle right there, and it still fits a shingle underneath. This little trick, very powerful. Photo number 4 is what sagging or snagging should look like. As it tears or pulls downward, it should have like an elongated tear. And then again, the rest of these are just photo. Oh, by the way, photo number 9, there it is. That's the photo number 9 on page 16. That's the moisture gauge. 36%. The outside humidity at the time was 23%. So there's no way at all that was just air humidity. Do what?
What kind of leverage does that give you in a file?
You can't trap moisture, so we had to take the piece of decking out and we had to do the underlayment and everything. So they bought the whole section and then eventually the whole slope. It doesn't work every single time. It's just a nice, for 15 bucks, if I use that moisture gauge once a year and it wins me a claim, I'll keep it in my truck.
Yeah.
Yes?
I got a question about thermal cracking.
Sure.
Do you more to see it vertically or horizontally?
I see a lot more horizontal thermal cracking where it does that kind of weaving crack. Vertical thermal cracking is thermal expansion where it pulls this. Now, if you look at some of the Atlas products and the Horizon and Chalet and those faux laminates have scattered thermal cracking vertical and horizontally. It was just a very, very thick product that once it hardened, it had some serious thermal cracking issues. Very serious thermal cracking issues. Does that answer your question for you? Okay. All right, I want to jump back over to the rest of the files here. Now we're going to show you how to use this. This is 5 more minutes on your hail damage ones. That's very powerful. When you open this file up, you're going to find, I don't know why I keep going to the screen like I don't have it right here on my computer. So simple for me. If you buy this tool, this $30 tool, I'm going to give you some advice. Talk somebody in your region or talk the owners into buying a couple as backups. Because I promise you, the first time you go to put it in your pouch and you miss and it falls off the roof and bounces 3 times and then splatters in the driveway, you're going to be like, I see why John said to buy 2 of those things. So this one's shot. This one doesn't work anymore, so I use this as my example one. But I've dropped one. In fact, it fell out of my pouch on a slate roof. I didn't even need it on, and I watched it just skee. You know, when you drop something on the roof that you like, it's only headed to one of 2 things, their car or the driveway. When you drop something you don't care about, it lands in a bush, and you're like, cool. My gloves fell in the bush. But when I dropped my tool, it managed to shatter into 1,000 pieces in a driveway. There's a checklist in here. I think checklists are great for creating accountability. That checklist is how I do it. It's very simple. If you go to start at photo 2, that annotation next to the box is C1. That stands for control area 1. 4 to 6 feet, 2 feet, and then the macro lens. When I told Bailey he had damage, what did I start with? Good. So if I'm going to show somebody what a microscope looks like who's unfamiliar with the tool, where do I start? No damage. So I want you to go all the way to photo number 7. That's what the microscope looks like when there's no damage through the microscope. Now photo number 9, I have a fracture on that one. What's the most important part about that photo?
Next to.
It's fracture.
Next to, location. I know exactly where that mark is, okay? I can go back to that mark the day of the adjustment. If I looked at this the day of my inspection, found the fracture, when I want to reference that fracture to an adjuster, I know exactly where that fracture is. So try and find, and it also happens to be next to a pretty beat up power vent, right? So then photo number 10 is the 2-foot one. Photo number 11 is the macro lens I told you about. Look at that macro lens photo. Look at how you can see the break in the asphalt and where it's actually pushed in the center part of the asphalt. And that's not even using any fancy tools. That's just use the macro lens, right? Like, isn't that a great hit? Like, that's like, I'm loving that one, right? Well, then photo number 12, 13, 14, and 15 are all me showcasing, I'm about to use the tool, I'm using the tool, here's what the tool saw. This way they can't question what I did with anything suspicious. If you look at the time on those, they're all between 1:41 and 1:42 p.m. Nothing changed. So this is just a guide to show you how to document if you're going to buy this tool, how to use it, because most people who have never seen this before, they're foreign to it. So when you introduce this tool, they're like, I don't know what that is. We don't use that. I'm not familiar with that. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't even know if that's on that roof. That's why all my photos show me, here's the tool on the roof, here's the tool standing up on the roof, here's the fractures, here's it when I'm done showing you I didn't leave this spot or this space, right? I'm trying to get a story, and if I do these on my first inspection, and they come out and they say no damage, I already have the photos to say, hey, I think we missed some things, there were some fractures, I know this is what your guy needed, here's the picture of those fractures. And I don't even have to make a second trip at that point. I can get back up when they leave and take some more fracture photos, but I don't need to make a second trip. Yes, sir.
You just taking all the pictures with your phone?
That thing, Wi-Fi's in your phone.
But the pictures
Yeah.
of the thing?
Yeah.
You actually?
Oh, yeah. So basically, I toggle between my phone's camera and the app for the digital Wi-Fi microscope. That way, it sequences them in time. And then, so obviously, photos number, what was it, 13 and 14, or 14 and 15 were actually in the app for the microscope, whereas everything else was directly from my phone. Or if you're in company cam, doesn't matter. So this is a valuable thing to put together. Now I'm going to skim over a couple of documents. We do have to spend some time for the office team to see some things. Okay? So I think it's important for you guys to understand this, though. You guys aren't a matching state, so we're going to skip that one. I don't need you to hit this one. Has anybody watched my video on YouTube about the Tamco English to metric? The 5-inch exposure one? You've watched it. I have a CertainTeed one and a Tamco one. I'm not going to walk through this document with you, but here's the deal. Is it the same presentation every single time?
That you do?
For a Tamco Heritage English to metric. The shingle used to be this size, now it's this size. Do you think it matters if I'm on Jones's roof, Smith's roof, or anything else?
5 inches. 1 inch.
Yeah, 5-inch exposures, 5-inch exposures, 5 and 5/8 is different. So that's one of those where if you guys build a file like this for A&M, you could duplicate this file, and anytime you have to argue English to metric, you've got the presentation that your in-house team can do it. And one of y'all, some of you could do a professional video where you talk about, hey, here's the dish, here you cut it here, here's what's gonna happen, and spell everything out. This is a system. That's all it is a system. If I can make a system to show compatibility, that'll help me go from shingles to slopes, awesome. So, Shauna, I think if you run into these things commonly, you should think, how can I make a file that I'm going to use over and over again? How many times have you had to argue English to metric in the past year? If it's once or twice, okay, do what? Handful. Once you got to a couple of times and you realize it's the same damn argument, they're always going to tell me to go mix this shingle, trim this shingle. I need to show them why I can't trim this shingle. You build the file once and you build a little video and move on. So when your field team goes to get a shingle off the roof or ITEL, have them pull 2 or 3, come back to your office, take all the photos that you need in your file, annotate your file, and make a little video that explains it, put it unpublished on YouTube, and now I've got a system. So the next time they go to do that, say, hey, we would love to try this, but the last time we tried this, here's what we ran into. I want you to review this file first. The amount of times they go, never mind, we'll just buy the slope, just because I don't make a trip. I'm not even sending a repair tech out there on that one. It's fantastic. So it's a system. Shawnee, you'll get this one too. There's no need to really like do this with the entire team right now. But even on a current shingle size, to be able to show the cellophane's in a different place. The sealant's a little bit different. One has a non-granulated strike zone. The teeth are different. Don't hesitate to go to the most minor degree of compatibility issues and shingle differences. What you need to do is put yourself in homeowner Bailey's shoes. Homeowner Bailey doesn't know anything about shingles, but if I go to homeowner Bailey and I go, hey man, do you see where like the shingle that's on your roof, the cellophane is here, and the shingle they make now, it's here, like it's not even the same place? What? Like, they just build these differently? I have to think of, I should rewind a little bit. Do you guys have any guess? First of all, have you guys ever seen an adjuster tie their shoe? No. You've never seen an adjuster tie their shoe? I'm going to show you how an adjuster ties their shoe. You ready? You ready? Not a lot of thought put into it, okay? Do you guys have any guesses what that desk person who's making the decisions did before they started working at the desk?
Nothing was roofing contractor.
They were a contractor, now they're a failed contractor, and they're making decisions. What else?
I thought that was all of them.
Right out of college, and that's just the first job they could get. They really have no real hard job experience out there.